You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 177, wow that's a big number, of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Hewart, and as always, I am with my running friend, Jeff Gargis. Jeff, I feel like calling you a running friend should assume, it should mean that we run together, you know?
Well, we do. We run together all the time. Every morning, I get to call on my phone. It's like, Jeff, it's Ray. Let's go. Get out there and let's run. And I don't know what I'd do without you. It's phenomenal.
I just love that I can live my life happily, and when you run, I actually get to borrow one of your miles and count it for myself, and it's a great friendship that we have going on here. I just really appreciate you for that.
I love that I typically offer 2, sometimes 3, and you're like, no, I'll just take 1.
You're just so generous. I couldn't possibly convince somebody that I ran 2 or 3. So if you say 1, then I could go to somebody and be like, I ran a mile today.
And they'd be like, yeah, that could happen too. They're like, no, you're right.
It's a better fib. Mm-hmm.
I get it. It's good. Yeah, you got to know what lie to tell.
Exactly. That's the moral of life. You need to know what fib to tell.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. So that was a little bit of an allude to our guest, because we didn't talk a lot about running, but it did come up, and we tied it in different ways stuff. And he is a runner, and a distance runner and stuff too. Before we go there, let's talk. So today is June 1st.
June 1st.
Which means, I don't know if you know, Ray, but that means tomorrow is June 2nd.
Obviously, I know that. I know 1 + 1 is 2.
Which means tomorrow kicks off our Building a Grid webinar series, which is all about the grid method for the next 4 weeks.
4 weeks, 8 sessions.
8, I know, that's the best part about it, is 8 sessions. So break it down for us. This was basically built out of demand. I mean, for a while now, and we finally like, all right, fine, we'll do it. We'll go full blown. So, tell us all about it. I'm putting you on the spot. So what do we need to know about this? How do we can still register. Like, what do I do? What it is all about? Who's this Chad guy?
Let's break it down. Really easy. During Chad's most challenging year of his entire life, which if you read the Teach Better book, you got a sneak peek of, what he created was called the grid method. And I'm not going to go into what it is. It's an amazing mastery framework. I could talk literally for hours and have talked for hours about how this framework changed my life and has changed lives of educators around the world. But one of the many things that we do as the Teach Better team is we partner with districts and help educators really purposefully incorporate a mastery learning classroom. But a lot of this is done in person. And so often, especially in our private Facebook group and everywhere else, people are saying, hey, what if my district isn't bringing you guys in to do this partnership for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years to implement this with fidelity? What do we do? And a lot of it's been, well, there's a course in the academy, and there's pros and cons to a lot of these types of trainings. Something that the Teach Better team really believes in is that interaction, that discussion, that feedback. And we wanted to find the right way to offer that to all of you before we could really kick off how we could do virtual Teach Better team grid method training. And guess what? We're doing it. So starting June 2nd, you can join us for a grid method webinar series, which is going to allow you for 4 weeks to not only get training, but participate in real, true discussions with Chad, the creator of the grid method himself. And by the end of it, you are going to have a student-ready grid. So whether we are going back to virtual classrooms, a blended classroom, or actually in person with students, you're going to have a system that is not only student-ready and rigorous in the content, but you're also going to know how to manage it and how to implement it with students. And I'm so excited that we're offering it. So you can actually register for this webinar at teachbetter.com/grid webinar. It's the first time we're doing this, and I really love the structure because Tuesday afternoons, we're going to introduce an idea of how to build your grid. And then Thursdays, we're going to do a live Q&A, which is going to allow you to not only take the work you've done Tuesday, but actually get in-person live feedback on the work you're doing, which is absolutely the way PD should be done.
It's also going to come with all you're going to all kinds of downloads, templates, examples, all kinds of stuff like that. It's going to be fun. Ray and I will be there, kind of lurking a little bit too, which will be
Every so
fun.
often.
But
I do really love that it's like more about the management and the content. Like the grid method is both pieces. If you've done a flipped classroom, if you've done all these things, you might know how to structure it, but actually implementing it, getting that feedback, really making sure that you're supporting students through multiple modalities. There's so many elements that we're going to be able to talk about here. And to be honest, don't tell Chad I said this, but he's actually pretty good at this stuff. And I'm kind of excited that you're going to learn it from the creator himself, because he's the one that not only created it, but works with districts around the country to make it a reality for students.
Fun fact. Did you know that before it was called the grid method, we almost called it the Ostrowski method?
Did we really?
True story.
Wow.
When he first brought it to me, he wasn't calling it anything. It was just how he was teaching. And he's like, well, I don't think and he had like a couple ideas. And I'm like, we should call it the Ostrowski method. And we'll do like Ostrowski teaching education.com. And that was the whole thing. We're like, now how about we call it the grid method? And we're like, yeah, that sounds a lot better.
You can't spell it. Ostrowski is so hard to spell. Really I still, when I write Chad's full name probably 3 times a week between graphics and everything we do with the team. Yeah. I have to look it up out of those 3 times, probably about two.
You ever seen his signature? It's just a C and an O because he doesn't know how to spell it either.
Usually you help me spell
method.
Jeff, usually you help me spell things by giving me a way to remember it. You haven't given me a good way for Ostrowski yet.
It's Ostrowski. O-Stro-Ski.
Guys, trust me, it's not as easy as he just depicted. But the grid method is something that, while not easy, while it is a massive transformation, totally worth doing. Head over to teachbetter.com/grid webinar for that registration code and all those details.
I love it. I'm pumped up for that. That's going to be exciting. So let's talk about this episode. So Greg Helmer is a superintendent in Michigan. I'd like to rattle off everything he's done, but it's hard.
There's no way.
Because he's done a lot. So he's been a classroom teacher, elementary and middle school. He's been a principal. He's been a assistant superintendent. He's now a superintendent. He has, he's been recognized as the MEMSPA Outstanding Practice and Principal of the Year. He was invited to Washington, D.C. and named the NAESP National Distinguished Principal of the Year. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame at Orchard View Public Schools. 26 years in public education. He's married to a 26-year veteran teacher as well. This guy has had so many experiences, and then life experiences that he get into as well. Like, holy cow, like the journey this guy's been on. And then he's an author. And we talk about his journey. We talk about the challenges he has overcome. We talk about his book, Lead with Endurance. By the way, he's given away several copies of that, so you have to listen through to figure out how you can win one of those. I enjoy this conversation. I really like Greg. He's a good dude. He was a lot of fun. Right when he got on, we started having a good time with him, and the episode was just filled with so much value, I think, in his viewpoint and how he looks at things. So I'm super excited for it. Any last-minute additions from yourself?
Guys, I'm Team Greg. Let's do this.
Team Greg, I love it. Episode 177 with Greg Helmer.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to the episode, but really quick, I want to highlight the webinar series that the Teach Better team is offering over at teachbetter.com/webinar series. And did I mention, y'all, it's free. So you can join myself, Chad Ostrowski, Mandy Freilich, Kevin Butler, and Jennifer and Hans Apple as we dive into educator mental health, remote learning essentials, the grid method, engagement, and so many other elements that can support you to be better at a distance. And you can go register right now at teachbetter.com/webinar series. All right, I've told you enough information. Let's get back to this awesome episode.
All right, we are here and we are chatting with Greg Helmer. And Greg, it's so awesome to chat with you. We've been talking a little bit before we hit record here. It's already a good conversation. I'm excited to get in to learn more about you and your journey and what you got going on. But before we get too far into things, man, how you feeling right now?
Well, I'm feeling really good because I'm just north of you, so I guess it's always good to be, on top. Don't take it that way, Jeff.
I'm not taking it any way. I'm just
I
laughing.
know I got to keep this PG, for professional development, professional growth. I got to watch my tongue here. No, we're doing well.
We're going to have fun on this. I can already tell. I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah, doing well. All considering, looking at what we're going to be doing next year with our educational platforms, trying our best to support our teachers, and I think that's a huge role right now for administration. Is teachers are working like crazy to take care of our students. So I continue to ask our leadership team, how can we better help our staff and our teachers to provide them the mental support and the endurance that they need to get through the rest of this school year.
Yeah, and I want to get into all that because I'm confident that the better we can do to share our ideas, to give other teachers ideas that they can support their students with is so important right now. So before we get into all of your advice, your experiences, kind of all that shebang, would you mind telling us a little bit about what you do in education?
Yeah, so currently superintendent. This is my second superintendent in a public school. Prior to that, had assistant superintendent position, two different principalships, middle school principal, elementary principal. And prior to that was a classroom teacher, did some elementary and also middle school. So, if you can teach middle school, you can pretty much do anything, I believe.
Love
That's
middle
what Ray
school.
believes.
Yeah.
I love middle school too. And talk about, and you just naturally would get feedback as a middle school educator, right? I mean, you didn't have to even ask for it. You just received feedback or criticism, either way you perceived it.
Well, and I think that's why I like working with Jeff so much is because he's like the maturity level of a middle schooler. And so I feel like I'm just at work all the time. You know what I mean?
I can understand that,
Yeah.
and I was looking at all those medals behind him there in the video. I didn't know if those were medals, from video or medals back from his middle school days or actually him running marathon.
Those are actually every time I successfully make it through a podcast episode, I get a medal. Because our audience just understands how difficult that is and what achievement it is to get through an episode with Ray. So I actually have several other racks. That's just this week. Anyway,
Ray, back to your question, Ray. 26 years in education, and I've had a variety of positions, but every time I get a new position and I get involved with it, it's always the best position I've ever had. And I feel that way right now about this current superintendency that I'm in. I feel it's the best position I've ever had. I'm also married to an educator. My wife is in her 26th year as a high school math teacher. She's also the department chair for Mona Shores High School. And of course, we got 3 teenagers. So we are all involved with education right now. I have a senior, 10th grader, and then also a 7th grader. So, besides being a lifelong educator, kind of played around a little bit with this book and finally published that just at the beginning of the year. So, looking forward to this conversation because I've been watching a lot of the tweets and some of the movement that you guys have brought with this Teach Better podcasts and also just your Teach Better talks. And I love what you guys are doing. You guys are engaging a lot of people across this country, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate all those kind words, and I want to talk about the book, but I want to first get your perspective because I love when we have an administrator on the show, especially right now during this time. It's such a crazy time. I'd really love to hear if you can kind of walk us through, like, what was it like when everything started closing down? We had to make this shift. What were the first steps that you took, and then how has that changed now that we're kind of in a, I don't want to say normal or new normal, but we're at least set, like, seems like some of the dust has settled. We're at least balanced out now. And where are you at now? What's the most important thing on your plate today now, too?
Yeah, you're like right now, just had a district leadership team meeting this morning with our administrative team. And one of the focus areas that we had with our connector is, as we're heading into the end of the school year, as it looks now, is what can we do to support our teachers? And what can we do to celebrate and highlight the positive accomplishments that we've had this school year? And so, we're looking at some videos. We're recognizing every senior that's graduating with a special biography and their picture through social media. Of course, we're doing the yard signs and all that good stuff. We're looking at trying to figure out how we're going to honor, this class of 2020, which, historical class, as we all know. But right now, it's trying to figure out what can we do to minimize the distractions for our teachers, knowing that we've got some pretty difficult decisions coming up with our budgets. And so I don't want to be an alarmist, as the district superintendent, but also I want to be real with people that we are going to face some difficult times. So it's finishing the celebrations and the end of the year successes and doing that remotely. And then it's also preparing for next year. And first of all, it's financially. And then we're going to get into the educational plan for probably the first week of June, prepping for next year.
Gotcha. And so, yeah, I know Michigan's, I've been reading some stuff that talking about some of the budget cuts, stuff like that. So I imagine that's got to be on the plate right now, figuring that out and getting in there. So a lot of challenging decisions coming your way as an administrator. I don't envy you right now. I promise that. But I'm confident in the leadership that we know all around the country are gonna do what's best for kids. So it's gonna be an interesting time. So I want to talk real quick before we get too further in. Let's go right to the book. I want to talk about the book, Lead with Endurance. It came out just early this year, right? And it come out in January or?
Yeah, first week of January we released it.
January. Yeah. So let's talk about it. So a couple of things about it. One, obviously, just give us the overview of what it's about, who should buy it, and then if you can also share the story of what led you to it, how did you get there?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jeff. I mean, everyone should buy it, right, Jeff?
Of course.
I mean, yeah. So there, we answered that question. Here's the reality of it. I was playing around with this book idea probably near the end of my second principalship, but I mean, I was just dabbling. You just don't have time, and as an educator, it's a tough schedule, and I had 3 kids, and my wife's full time working as a teacher, and I just didn't have the time. But every once in a while, early in the mornings or weekends, I would do a little bit of writing, a little reflection, and I continued to keep a journal, and I had a little hard copy file, and also started creating some Google Docs, just jotting down ideas. And then I resigned from my first superintendency November of 2017. And I had about 6 months where I was trying to figure out what do I want to do next with my career. And I started playing around with this book. And so I had time, and that's what I did for about 3 months. I just wrote, and really it was for my own mental well-being, trying to keep busy. It's kind of hard, when you're staying at home and your wife and your kids are going off to work every day and you're not going off to work every day. So I finished the book. And there's 3 components to it. And the first component really is about 3 particular endurance stories that I've had to personally face, personally and professionally. And the first one is about age 10, I had an onset of Tourette's. And actually, Ray, you connected me with Brittany Wolf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. She's amazing.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, talk about inspiration. She's a phenomenal lady. And I thank you, Ray, for connecting us. So that's one of the hurdles or challenges that I've had to endure. And, I never thought I would get into public education where you stand in front of people and you speak a whole lot. Because there's some self-conscientious that comes with Tourette's and some of the tics that I do have and demonstrate. So that's one hurdle. Another hurdle is I was diagnosed with a brain tumor back in 2014. I was actually in a transition from my second principalship into an assistant superintendent position, and I had 26 rounds. Hence 26.2, Jeff. So there's that subtitle of the book, right?
Yep.
I had 26 rounds of radiation. And then the third hurdle was when I resigned due to some political reasons. I just felt like I was not able to lead a district that I really loved, the same district that my kids were in and my wife. And so I ended up resigning from a position that I loved. And that was a tough decision. I felt like I was surrendering a little bit. And so that's kind of some of the endurance stories that are connected to this book. And then, of course, being a distance runner, I went with the 26.2 as far as milestones. So I call them milestones rather than chapters because I think anyone could utilize the message in this book, whether you're a youth pastor or a classroom teacher in kindergarten or working with, college students or, a youth soccer coach, or quite frankly, just raising your own kids. And so I try to make it practical. I also try to make each chapter or milestone very short. And then at the end of each milestone, there's reflective questions and action steps. So it's really meant to be, not necessarily read from cover to cover. You want to kind of read and process and then take some action. Great for book studies. Um, but I really kind of put this together after I resigned, and never really thought I was going to publish a book. And then, through some colleagues and friends and family, like, finish the book. So that's what I did. I finished the book, and it was fun.
That's awesome. I love that story, and the obstacles and challenges you had to overcome. Just set that up for a great book in pure endurance in there. So I love that. I want to flip it, and now I'm really even more interested in hearing your story here. So one of the things we talk about, and we always share stories of on this podcast, is failure and overcoming challenges. So hoping you can find one to pick from and share with us a time that you've had a failure or challenge in your life, something you had to overcome. Just kind of share, what happened, how did you overcome that, and what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah, that's it. That's a great question. I'd probably say, okay, Ray, Jeff, how much time do you have? Because I can talk all day long about my failures. As a matter of fact, I speak about quite a few of my failures in my book. One of my mistakes right off the bat was, and again, I have to keep in mind, this is a PD rated show, professional development, so I got to be really careful. But in my book, I did talk about a very bad mistake when I ran nude with a bunch of my teammates down a beach in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Not good. That is one way that you can get yourself kicked off a collegiate track team. So, but you have to read a little bit more about that in the book. As far as a leadership mistake, I had a very candid business manager in my first superintendency, and I think all of us can relate in regards to emails. And when I first started teaching, we didn't have email. I didn't even have a telephone in my classroom, and so I think about the rate and the rapidness of communication. And because I do run pretty early in the morning, there's oftentimes I do a lot of my thinking. And so I would finish with a run at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I have all these natural endorphins, and I have all these great ideas in my own mind that I just want to share with my administrative team. And so I would blast text messages. I would send out emails bright and early before, the workday even starts. Sometimes on Saturday mornings, I'd go for a long run and I'd come back and, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I just have all these great ideas and I'm sending these text messages. And finally, a business manager said, "Dude, you're killing us." And I really had to step back because I was sending a pretty bad message, to our leadership team that, listen, just because I'm on and I'm thinking, they were thinking they needed to be on and that they needed to be working at 4:45 in the morning or at 10 o'clock at night or on a Saturday morning. And so I really appreciated that feedback, and it kind of like hit me on the head like of a 2x4. It's like, okay, I need to really be conscientious of when I communicate with administrators or those that, I work with on a team. And so, delayed emails are a great strategy, or I just hold back and refrain from sending text messages, on weekends or early morning. I just blast them at 8 o'clock. But I think, that was a mistake that, I was making on a regular basis, and I didn't realize the negative impact on that with our leadership team. So even to this day, I try to be very conscientious of when I send out communication.
Well, I think that's so important, Greg, because as you alluded to, just because we're working doesn't mean that everyone else is, but finding those kind of tools where you can still get it out, still feel like you expressed yourself, and then maybe using like Boomerang to delay, it actually fully sending to people or whatever. Those are those little tips and tricks that you can take on that still allows you to be you and, do your thinking when you have the time and the ability to do so, but then also find the balance and help others find the balance in their lives. So that's an awesome story. I cannot tell you, your book must be so long, because even just the stories that you've highlighted in the past few minutes, I mean, oh my goodness, there must be some good stuff in this book. I'm going to go order it right now because there are not only, I'm sure, great ideas in education, but some killer stories I cannot wait to dive into. When it comes to the work you're doing, I mean, whether it be your experience as a teacher, your experience as a father, your experience as a principal, superintendent, all these other things you've done, what at this point is really keeping you excited about education and all that you're doing? Like, what really fuels your fire?
I think some of the things that we're doing with social media, I mean, just think about, the Teach Better platform that, you guys are developing. I feel that there are more positive ways to gain intel and to gain best practices and to find support for educators now than ever. And I think what excites me is that there's no longer the just sharing and collaborating and working with our wall mate or our grade level colleagues or our department colleagues. We are truly, we have the luxury of collaborating and working with those around the country and around the world through all of the technology tools, that we have in front of us. And I think that's incredibly exciting. And I think that this current situation with COVID-19 and the shutdowns that we have, endured, and we've had to adjust our practices, we've had to adjust our platforms. We've been forced to probably move the brontosaurus that we've really needed to move in public education naturally because of this current situation. And I think that's exciting. And quite frankly, I think our students and our parents are going to require us to do more things virtually post pandemic. And once we get this all under, and I know that we can never lose the power of face to face and the incredible relationships that our teachers and our educators, develop with our kids. And that's truly one of the most critical pieces. But I think that we can come up with some hybrid platforms for public education in this country and around the world that can really help all of us deliver a more efficient and a more effective education, and also continue to develop and enhance those close relationships that we develop in our classrooms and in our schools.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I completely agree with everything you said. I think that that's so important, and really is the silver lining that we can strive to see through all of this, is that it pushed us harder than we've ever been pushed, and we're going to come out better because of it. And that is so important. In question 5, we always talk about advice, and I'm so confident that you have so many different pieces of advice that you could offer a teacher at any point in their career. But if you had to pick just one piece of advice that you think all teachers should really take to heart, what would that be?
Well, it's the same advice that I gave our union president and our teachers union leadership team about 2 weeks after the first shutdown. So now we're looking at about the end of March. And this is when, at least in Michigan, we were working on our educational platforms to be approved by our local area intermediate school districts to continue our state aid funding for the rest of the year. And as we were trying to really focus on giving grace to our teachers and to our students, but also to continue to focus on the mental health and the well-being, and most powerfully to leverage those incredible relationships that our teachers have with our students and our parents, is I continue to say we need to focus on relationships before the rigor. This is not a time to be focusing on content standards, to drive home the curriculum, to get your curriculum pacing guides finished over the next week or the next month. This is about taking care of kids. It's a worldwide crisis. And if there's any time that we can step away from the rigor of content and to really make sure that our kids are doing okay mentally and emotionally, now is the time. And so I wanted to tell our union leaders that you're going way too fast and spending too much time on the content. We don't want to forget about that, and we want to continue to develop that. But I think we need to really pull back on the pace. And to their credit, I mean, teachers want to teach and they want to have their students learn. But I think because of the current status of some kids not having Wi-Fi, some kids not having access to devices. Now, most of our kids did, but not all in our grade levels. And so we really had to step back and slow down a little bit and think about how are we going to be a facilitator of learning. And so my advice was relationships before rigor and to continue focusing on being a facilitator of the well-being of all these kids and not necessarily worry about content expectations and the standards that we have for our content that we teach.
Yeah, it's an important way to look at that, important message for everyone to hear. So appreciate you sharing that. Before we dive into the 6 questions here, we're going to do a little giveaway, which I love. I love when we get to do these, Ray.
Let's do it.
A lot of fun. And we're going like to the max with this. We're like, hey, Greg, you want to do giveaway? And he's like, yeah, let's do giveaway. I'm like, yeah, you want to do a book? And he's like, how about we do 10?
10.
Yes.
And we were like, yeah, that'd be fun. And you're like, no, I'm serious. Let's do 10. So we are going to do a giveaway. 10 people are going to get a free copy, signed copy, correct, Greg? Signed?
That's right.
Signed copy of Greg's book, Lead with Endurance. So here's what you got to do.
Wait,
You
can
need
I
to
confirm?
What?
Can I win? Can I win a signed copy?
No.
Why can
You
I
cannot.
never participate in any of the fun we have on the show?
If you haven't realized that you won by getting to host this show with me, I don't know what.
All right,
Yeah.
what about everybody else?
You know, Ray, I mean, who's the giver in this situation? I don't think it's Jeff.
It's not. I'm the most generous one.
So I think you qualify, Ray, but you have to meet the standard that Jeff is going to
Okay,
share.
all right, there you go.
Man.
Greg says you can win, you can win. So what you got to do is share out on whatever your favorite social media is. If you can tag us and tag Greg. Greg, what's your handle?
Yeah, what is my handle? That's a good question.
It's at Helmer Greg, right? Helmer Greg.
Helmer Greg, capital
Yeah,
H, capital G.
So tag Greg, tag us. Then you got a hashtag Teach Better Talk, Teach Better, and hashtag LWE for Lead with Endurance. And that should be capital L, capital E with a lowercase w in the middle.
You got
And
it.
then give Greg the reason. Tell us why you should get this book. And we're going to pick 10, and Greg's going to sign them and ship them out. So that's your test. Ray, if you would like to participate, you can be in the run-in as well.
I've been working on this why since you started talking, so I'm game.
She's ready.
She'll probably have it turned in tonight, Jeff.
Yeah, that does sound like
It's
me.
done. She's probably like tweeting it right now. Wow.
All right, let's do these next 6 questions. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Fire away.
Give us one EdTech tool you cannot live without.
YouTube.
What's a book you're reading right now?
I am reading for the second time Focus by Mike Schmoker.
Who do we need to follow on Twitter or Instagram today? You can give us up to 3.
John Gordon. I love John Gordon. And I mean, Teach Better Team, right? I mean, come on.
Appreciate that.
And then also Mesa, which is our state superintendent's organization in Michigan.
Love it. Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators to go to.
Leadwithendurance.com.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Planning time before the kids arrive.
And lastly, give us the best piece of advice you've ever received.
Culture and relationships trump everything.
Ooh, I like it.
Boom, mic drop right there. I love it. Man, that's
Timely,
awesome.
right on.
I know. That was really good. You get the Teach Better Talk trophy.
Wow. I'll just take one of those medals that Jeff has.
No, that takes a lot more. You have to survive episodes with Ray.
Jeff,
You haven't survived yet. We're not.
Jeff, you and I are going to run a race together.
All right, game on. I like it.
Let's do it.
We'll
Can
figure that out.
I meet you guys at the end for like a beverage or something?
We'll call you when we're done.
All right, thanks, buddy.
So
Appreciate
you
you.
gotta understand. Well, Greg, what I do is if I go for a 10, what actually happens is I call Ray and I let her know. I'm like, hey, I went for 10. Do you want 2 of them? And she takes 2 miles.
No, it's too selfish to take 2. I usually only take 1. I'll let you keep the other 9.
I did a 10 on Saturday, so I was
That's when I did mine. That was good.
Nice.
See, we did run together. We didn't even know it.
We did.
Yeah, guys, I did like 12 on Sunday. It was really awesome.
12 what, Ray? 12 what?
Well, I climbed my stairs or something. 12. I don't know.
12 stairs.
You guys are very, very mean. I want to get back to Greg. Greg, our listeners need to not only continue being Team Ray, but also make sure they follow you, connect with you, win the book, and all the good things. So would you mind kind of sharing how people can stay connected?
Yeah, so Twitter's at Helmer Greg, capital H, capital G. Instagram is lead _with _endurance. Website, www.leadwithendurance.com. And then also the book is on Amazon now. So if you just do a simple search, Greg Helmer, Lead with Endurance, it'll come up on Amazon.
And you can find all the links and all the resources that we talked about on this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as the important links for connecting with Greg, getting into the book, and keeping the conversation going with him. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's keep this going one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators. Share this podcast with them. Greg, this was awesome, man. I'm so excited to have you on. I'm pumped for a bunch of people to get this book and to continue spreading its message. I'm looking forward to a race together. And one day, being able to do a fist bump, high five, something like that in person would be awesome. So just thanks for coming on. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for having fun. Thanks for giving us some of your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks to you, Ray and Jeff, and keep up the great work. I do get a chance to follow you guys once along. I am going to join the Cocktail Wednesday at some point. So that looks like that could be a lot of fun.
Well, shout out to Dave Schmittou. We're gonna get you on there. We're gonna do that. We may even invite Ray one day. We'll see what happens. Dave is Team Ray. Like, he's not shy about that. So we might as well have you on sometime, Ray. So
love it. Can't wait.
We'll take that. It's awesome. All right. And until next time, let's get out there. Let's teach better.